Hi, I'm Betty Yee, former California State Controller and candidate for governor.
As we sit here today, voters still don't know that you are about to shake up the California governor's race once again. And just, I don't know, about an hour from now, you're going to announce that you are stepping out of the race. What are you feeling right now? Relief, sadness, exhaustion?
Well, Julie, I have to say, sadness for sure. This has been a 2-year journey, and really thinking that what I brought to the table was going to resonate, but I'm not done. That work will continue. But sadness for sure. There's been a great journey. It's just unfortunately been one of the most unusual and unpredictable and turbulent races I think that we've seen in modern California history. And I'm sure a lot will be written about it in the years to come. But I certainly will be sharing some more observations and experiences in the weeks and months to come.
So I'm going to ask some, frankly, blood questions. And I'm hoping now that you're no longer in the race, you can kind of speak freely.
Sure.
You have been under pressure for months to drop out.
Yes.
We still have nearly a quarter of voters still undecided. Why now, Betty?
I don't see a path to really making it to the primary, and for a couple of reasons. Given the polling that's been done, particularly from the California Democratic Party about narrowing the field, that in and of itself has been self-fulfilling. It's really put a chill on, frankly, my donors. So I'm just not going to be able to have the resources that I need to be viable by the June 2nd primary.
Was there a moment or a poll or a conversation or something behind the scenes from the party that made it apparent to you that now was the time?
No, nothing from the party. I mean, look, they're doing their job, and for whatever reason, decided to put money into a poll that would narrow the field. This was really a decision that I made after I had a stellar polling research firm that I do business with, and they've been polling gubernatorial races for the last 50 governor cycles, and I've never seen anything like this. And what they were saying, which was concerning, was this. Experience and competence was not polling as high as we thought when I first started this race. The issues that I raised with respect to just what we've been experiencing in this race around, sexual assault allegations and, just the things that I think are so offensive in terms of, what is still acceptable behavior in many of our political circles. That was not getting resonance. And I felt that even when I was speaking about that publicly. The numbers of undecideds and even the people who were responding with their candidates of their choice were still shopping. So there wasn't like this, kind of deeply rooted, kind of sense that people were really fully into this race. And the time is short. So I just really had to do my own, kind of assessment about just what I could do. And I will say the donors weren't there. And I'm going to really say this now because what was a big disappointment was that donors from my own community were not there. Even past donors. And I'm not sure why that is, but that is going to be something that I will take a closer look at. Being the only Asian Pacific Islander woman on the, I really take that to heart. There's something in our community that is going on that I want to better understand. And we're the fastest growing demographic. And yet, here we had an opportunity to elect a leader who's been just really mindful of the needs of our community. And yet they weren't stepping up.
What does this moment say about how campaigns are funded? I mean, you just got done saying that experience and competency weren't polling well.
Right.
Yet, I think if you go out and you ask anybody, hey, do you think the governor should be experienced and competent? They're going to say yes.
Right.
What does this say about, frankly, polling, about voters, and maybe most importantly, about how campaigns are funded? Because we know money really moves voters.
Well, let me talk about the voters first, because a lot of polling is obviously about the sentiments of voters. We have a lot of Californians who are carrying unaddressed trauma with them, um, to the point of where I think they really are looking for security. They're looking for a sure thing. I think they're looking, and a sure thing might even be, a billionaire who they believe, can actually take care of the state.
I mean, I think you know this. I hear this all the time. I hear this from people within the Democratic Party. I hear this from other candidate campaigns. I hear this from some of the other candidates themselves, that Betty may not be able to win, but she is one of the most qualified, if not the most qualified, in this race to run the state of California. Why is it that people seen as the most capable, they're not the ones that the Democratic machine is backing? I mean, do you think you were given a fair shot?
I think, and I said this at the outset of this campaign because we had early forums in this campaign, and I thought, my goodness, we're one, not talking about the issues, and two, who's garnering the attention? The candidates that are having conflicts on the stage. And so, we're in this new era where, it's kind of almost reality TV show mentality that people want. And frankly, conflict sells, and so that's what gets people's attention. I'm not a flashy person. I don't come with gimmicks. I even said and joked with my team one time, maybe I just need to bring like a folding stool and throw it off the stage just to get some attention. I mean, what's it going to take, right? This is the era we're in. I do think that when we get closer to the primary, and certainly as we get into the general, that we'll see, just more of those fireworks. And I hope that's not the case because we have so many issues that we have to address in California.
So let's talk about delegates for a minute. Swalwell got the most delegates. You were second, just
Yeah.
behind Swalwell at 17%. Behind you, Javier Becerra, obviously a longtime Democratic politician, then Tom Steyer. And then there's a big break before you get to Katie Porter, no preference, then Tony Thurmond, then Antonio Villaraigosa.
Mhm.
So the top delegate voter is now out. You are number two, but it seems that the Democrats or, the machine itself is throwing its support behind Becerra and Steyer. Why do you think that is? And in addition to that, do you think there's a disconnect between the delegate process, between the party insiders and voters?
I do. I do. I mean, first of all, delegates, people have to remember delegates are, look, they're all volunteers, they're either appointed or they're elected in their own right. And they have a responsibility of understanding, who the leadership, elected leadership of this party will be. And one of the single most decisions that they get to make is to endorse a candidate. And so they actually do have to get behind the backgrounds of each of the candidates, understand who they are. I've been a delegate for a long time, and so they know me and know my work certainly. But when you have what's happening within the party translate into voters in general, there is a disconnect. It's actually a big thread that runs between them, where those who supported me, I mean, yes, they still continue to be my foot soldiers out in the field, but since nobody got the endorsement, it's kind of a whole scatter shot of different things that voters are hearing about who would be the best governor. So. How we close that chasm? If we had had an endorsed candidate coming out of that convention, that chasm would have been closed much easier.
We just announced the candidates that we've invited to our CBS California debate.
Yeah.
And
Sorry.
we have really prided ourselves on being the most inclusive because, frankly, being somebody who has interviewed all of you, I argued that we should be including you and Tony, who were, polling around 1% at these most recent polls, because you had some really great ideas, right? And I think it's important for viewers and voters at home to hear those ideas juxtaposed with what the top polling candidates are saying.
Right.
I think it really, that context is important for voters to have. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, you have withdrawn from the race. I hope you'll still join us as a guest at the debate.
Thank you.
But do you think that, I mean, what does it say about Tony and Antonio's campaign moving forward? Do you think that because of where they are polling, that they should also step down, or that maybe there is a path for them?
I'm going to say this, Julie. I know each of the candidates. I know what goes into a decision to run, and I'm not in a place to ask anybody or to even surmise whether they should step down or not. These are very personal decisions, and I'm not sure what their internal teams are saying about their path to viability. But what I will say is this: thank you for being just the model of being inclusive with the candidates, particularly now that voters are focused on this race. And they should have every opportunity to hear from all of us about what we plan to do, about our backgrounds, just our whole outlook about the future of California. And when those avenues are closed, I think it actually does a disservice to voters. I still, at the end of the day, trust voters to make a good choice. It's incumbent upon us to make our case, and so the venues that allow us to do that, we welcome. And if we're not successful in making our case, then I think we each have to make a decision about whether there really is a path to victory. And for me, what I will be announcing today is that I've concluded that there is not. Yeah.
A couple more quick questions. I know you have to run because you're about to make the announcement, but there's some really important things that I want to share with
Thank you
the
for the
public.
time. Yes.
Okay, so first, this is you're a numbers person, and Betty, I think that you can sort of put this into perspective for us better than most.
Yes.
Your name will still be on the ballot.
Yeah.
So will Eric Swalwell's. We've seen before, even after candidates drop out, Leland Yee dropped out of the Senate race amid federal charges and still got
Right.
10% of the vote. How much could your name and Swalwell's name being on the ballot, and frankly, other low polling Democrats, how much could that splinter the race?
I think given that I have been low polling, I don't think it will be a factor. I think voters will know after today that I've suspended my campaign, and they'll make their choice based on that information. So I'm not going to speculate what kind of impact that's going to have, but I'm going to be very clear that I'm suspending my race, and that word will get out, and the field will be narrower for voters to choose from.
But from a data perspective, what do you think about Swalwell's name still being on the ballot? I mean, do you
That's
think that's an
interesting.
impact?
Well, I think the quick handling of that situation from the perspective of his, withdrawing from the race and then resigning from Congress, I think I mean, from my perspective, I think will have the impact that people are not going to consider him a viable candidate to cast a vote for.
Who do you think benefits most from your exit?
That's a good question. Um, I'm not sure. I mean, I think I've been aligned with each of the other candidates in one way or another. And because I don't know what the voters are looking for, that is a really good question, Julie, because if I knew, I wouldn't be in this
Apparently
position.
not experience and
To the extent that experience and competence isn't
yes, yes.
polling well, and that's not at the top of the list, I'm not sure. I really can't answer that question.
Okay, the big question, drum roll please. Who are you going to endorse?
Uh, Um, Julie, I'm going to ask you to give me this, next day or so. I'm with my team. I'm with my family. It's been, as you can imagine, emotional. But, I just want to thank them for getting me to this point, and I'm going to make a serious, obviously assessment of who I'm going to put my name behind, and but there will be an announcement soon. I'd rather do it sooner rather than later. My supporters deserve to know.
Speaking of family,
Yes.
anyone who has spent any amount of time with you, anyone who's interviewed you has met your lovely husband, Stephen. I've got to imagine this has been really difficult for him. He comes to every interview with you, every public appearance. He's your biggest supporter. How hard has this been for Stephen?
Um, it's been difficult. It's been difficult. He's a rabbi by profession, retired now, although once a rabbi, always a rabbi. What I will say is that, as a rabbi, you really see a lot and understand human nature a lot. And I think he's seeing the best sides of people and also some of the, not so pretty sides of people. And it's sad. That's for us the sadness of all this is that it doesn't have to get to this point of where, it has to be ugly, where people feel like power has to come at the expense of somebody else, and where you're so committed to a cause like really elevating the state of California in ways that bring people into it, where they're part of this, right? And so that's the vision we were selling. And when people aren't responding, we just are sharing a lot of sadness today. And I hope this vision can be something that we can resurrect in the community work that we'll continue to do. And I think that is where a lot of that work will happen on the natural anyway. But thank you for asking. He is my superpower. He's my life partner in more ways than one. And he says this all the time. I don't say this, but I'm going to say it. I could not have gotten this far without him and with so many others. And that's just something special, as you know.
Okay, in closing, what do you want voters to understand about this decision that they won't see in the headline? So I want you to finish this sentence. I am stepping aside today because.
I am stepping aside from this race for governor because this is a time where I do not see a path to be successful. But success comes in all different forms. And I do feel we've run a successful campaign. But the work doesn't stop here. And look, my commitment to public service is both in my public life and in my personal life. So I will be back to the communities and just know for anyone viewing, as challenged as we are here in California, this is the greatest state. Anything is possible here. Any challenge that we have in California can be solved right here in California if we have the right leadership and if we actually tap into truly the immense talent that we have in all of our communities. So that's the work I will continue to do. And I am just so grateful to have had this opportunity. And Julie, thank you for just allowing me to just share some personal thoughts. it is a sad day, but also a day that I am looking forward to just continuing my service in a different way.
And thank you for your candor. I know that the voters and Californians will appreciate it.
Thank you.